Discovered, the incredible moment a millionaire's wrong car ride led to a life-changing surprise. Jonathan had been pushing through another grueling shift at his auto shop. The grease-stained floors told tales of long days, filled with stubborn engines and flat tires. This evening felt different, the air was thick with exhaustion, and his weary muscles ached as he locked up. Just as he was about to walk home, a luxury car pulled up outside. Mistaking it for his friend's ride, he climbed into the back, hoping for a moment of rest. "Hey! What are you doing?" came a voice that jolted him from his fatigue. Sitting in the front was Amanda, a well-dressed woman, shimmering from a charity gala. Surprise flickered in her eyes as Jonathan shifted awkwardly, realizing his mistake. The tension hung between them like a taut wire. Sorry, thought this was my friend's car," Jonathan mumbled, a flush creeping up his cheeks. Amanda was taken aback, clearly unaccustomed to such rough edges. She raised an eyebrow, studying him, her curiosity piqued. "Are you a mechanic?" she asked, glancing into the rearview mirror. His clothes were a dead giveaway, and Jonathan bristled at her tone. He felt it a moment of vulnerability, a risk that neither of them was prepared for. "Yeah," he replied starkly, "and it pays the bills, if I'm lucky." The journey unfolded awkwardly, but then the unexpected twist in their conversation began. As they drove past a community center, a sign read "Annual Charity Event, Bridging Lives and Communities." "That looks interesting," Amanda said, and Jonathan's heart sank. He felt the weight of his mother's medical bills pressing on him. He couldn't escape thoughts of the relentless accumulation of bills, each one a reminder of their fragile existence. "My mom's health it's bad. Bills pile up like junked cars," he admitted, feeling raw and exposed. Amanda shared her own story, growing up overshadowed by family wealth, desperate to prove herself. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm just a shadow," she confessed. Their backgrounds starkly contrasted, yet, a beam of understanding broke through the fog. Mirroring Jonathan's concern, Amanda proposed they work together for a fundraiser, eager to merge their experiences into something meaningful. "Maybe it can create a difference," she said, optimism shining in her eyes. But as they planned their approach, the fissures of skepticism grew. Friends and family viewed their partnership through a lens of class distinction. Jonathan felt the pressure of Amanda's privilege. They argued, words filled with frustration and misunderstanding. Doubt seeped into the bond they had forged, leaving an undeniable rift. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." As the day of the charity event drew closer, both felt a whirl of anticipation and dread. Jonathan stood backstage, heart pounding. When he finally took the stage to share his story, he could see the mixed reactions from the audience, some empathetic, others skeptical. Just as he began to find his footing, a voice rang out from the crowd, slicing through the air like a knife, sowing seeds of doubt. Jonathan felt his throat tighten, the judgment hanging like smog. Would he have the courage to push through the pain of their differences or retreat into silence? As he faced the crowd, the weight of their worlds collided, and he knew that this moment could either bridge the gap or tear them apart forever. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, doubts spilling into the open like oil on water. Jonathan's heart raced, each beat echoing his uncertainty. He looked at Amanda, who stood to the side, her expression a mix of concern and encouragement. He needed to focus, to find the words that might resonate. My name is Jonathan," he started, forcing his voice steady. "I'm a mechanic in this town. I've lived here my whole life." He scanned the faces in the audience. A few nodded, but most seemed disconnected. You may think that my story is just about fixing cars, but it goes deeper. The pressure built inside him, as if every set of eyes held an expectation he didn't know how to meet. He took a deep breath, picturing his mom and the struggles they faced. Recently, my mom was diagnosed with a serious illness. It has shattered our world, and the bills are relentless. His voice trembled, and he felt the tension in the air shift. Sometimes, hope feels like a luxury. We're not just running out of money, we're running out of time. A wave of silence enveloped the crowd. Jonathan pressed on, feeling a flicker of connection, igniting a courage he didn't know he had. I've learned that there is strength in reaching out, in asking for help. The challenge isn't just my family, it's a lot of us. We're all facing something. He glanced again at Amanda, who was now leaning in, her eyes locked onto his every word. Suddenly, a shout came from the back. A man, arms crossed, his face hardened with skepticism. And what would you know about struggle? You're just a mechanic. The audience shifted, some murmuring in agreement. Jonathan's stomach dropped. Maybe I am just a mechanic, he shot back, surprised by his own fierceness. But I'm more than my job. Like you, I have dreams, fears, and responsibilities. I'm trying to make a difference not just for my mom, but for people who feel like they have no voice. The man scoffed, urging laughter from his companions. Jonathan felt the walls closing in, but then something inside him snapped. I didn't come here to be judged. I came to show that we all have something to lose and something to fight for. My life, like yours, matters. A ripple of reaction surged through the crowd. Some nodded, some leaned forward, fascinated. Amanda moved to the front, her presence a beacon of solidarity. Let me add on to that, Amanda said, her voice steady. I come from privilege, yet I felt like I had to prove myself, to find my own path. It's easy to overlook what is hard for others when you haven't walked in their shoes. Jonathan's heart soared, bolstered by her words. They were bridging the gap together. The audience slowly began to respond, an undertone of murmurs and nods transforming into applause. They finally felt the weight of shared experiences, a collective understanding beginning to sprout, but just as the atmosphere shifted, a sudden flash of doubt flickered across Jonathan's mind. Had they really made progress? Would the ripple of change hold, or would it dissipate into the air like smoke? Thank you for listening today, Jonathan concluded, voice trembling but clear. Let us work together, not just for me or Amanda, but for all of us. Together, we can make a difference. The applause now thundered, yet a burden weighed heavily on his shoulders. He felt they had ignited a spark, but was it sustainable? As the event wound down, Jonathan caught Amanda's eye. That was something, he whispered, unsure of the road ahead. Yeah, it was, she replied, a hint of strength in her smile. But it's just the beginning. Jonathan nodded, sensing the uncertainty still lurking. With the night ending, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge lay ahead, waiting just beyond the horizon. Would their connection hold as they faced the fallout of this moment? As they stepped off the stage, shadows of doubt still loomed, whispering questions he couldn't yet answer. The applause faded, but the energy in the room lingered like smoke from a recent fire. Jonathan felt that embers were still warm, glowing faintly, promising the potential for something more, a change, a connection. Yet, as the crowd dispersed, a knot still twisted in his stomach, and self-doubt crept back in like an unwelcome guest. Did we really reach anyone? He asked, pacing slightly, running a hand through his hair. Or was it just noise? Amanda stepped closer, her expression softer now. You gave them something to think about. It's a starting point, she reassured him. Change doesn't happen overnight. Jonathan stopped, taking a moment to let her words sink in. He glanced around the room, the lingering faces of neighbors and acquaintances packing away chairs and exchanging whispers. The warmth of their applause still echoed, but each smile seemed to carry its own question lingering unspoken in the air. He remembered the man who had scoffed at him. What if he had only stirred up more resentment? What if their words meant nothing? "Hey," Amanda said, pulling him from the spiral of doubt. "We'll keep pushing. Together, right?" "Together," he echoed softly, drawing strength from her presence. As they began to exit, the crowd began to thin out, and voices faded into the evening. Jonathan's mind was racing, visions of hope mixed with insecurities left him dizzy. He stepped outside and took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. "Do you think they heard us?" he asked, gazing at the stars pinpricking the indigo sky. "I think so," Amanda replied, leaning against the railing. "You touched a nerve. People want to believe and be heard. It's just this town so stuck in old ways. But we can break that." Jonathan chuckled lightly at the fierceness in her voice. "So, what's our next step, then? Do we keep talking to people? Organize another event?" "Maybe both," Amanda suggested. "But, Jonathan, I think it goes deeper than just talking. We need to show them. Actions speak louder than words, don't you think?" Her eyes shone with a sparkling intensity, filling Jonathan with sudden determination. They could organize a community project, a way for everyone to really come together and see firsthand the issues they all faced. "That's brilliant," he said, excitement growing in his chest. "Maybe we can set something up like a community day with workshops sharing ideas or skills." Their conversation continued to flow, and before he knew it, the weight on his shoulders began to lift. Together they outlined plans, every word building toward a shared purpose, fueling a bright vision that felt more tangible with each passing moment. Just as they were about to finalize their ideas, Jonathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, and his heart almost stopped. It was a message from his mom's hospital urgent. "Excuse me for a sec," he said, his voice unusually tight. The message consumed his attention. Panic started to prick at his chest. When is it going to end? He thought, fear edging in as he read the text. Amanda noticed his change in demeanor, stepping closer, concern etching her features. "Jonathan? What's wrong?" he faltered, swallowing hard. "My mom. They want her to come in again. It might be serious." A moment of silence wrapped around them, the weight of reality crashing back in. The warmth of their momentum felt abruptly cut by shadows of fear and uncertainty. "Hey, we'll figure this out," Amanda said gently, her hand finding his. It felt solid and reassuring against the storm brewing in his heart. "Yeah," he whispered, yet the doubt returned, darker now, whispering that they might not. "Just keep your phone close. Whatever happens, you don't have to go through this alone." He nodded, but as he looked into her eyes, a new spark of doubt emerged. Would this newfound connection withstand the real challenges looming over them? With that unresolved question hanging in the air, Jonathan couldn't help but wonder what would transform next. Jonathan walked a few steps away, his pulse quickening as he stared down at his phone. The screen was alive with cold, stark words that only heightened his fears and uncertainty. He pictured his mom, the smile lines around her eyes, the soft way she held him during tough times, how she always believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. "Jonathan?" Amanda's voice pulled him from his thoughts. He turned, looking at her with an expression that gave away too much. He didn't want her to see how deeply it affected him. Can we go to the hospital?" It felt like such a small request, but it carried the weight of the world. "Of course," Amanda replied immediately, her tone resolute. "Let us go." As they drove in Amanda's car, the city lights blurred past. Jonathan's heart felt heavy, conflicting with the flickering hope they had just built together. What if something happened to her? "You okay?" Amanda asked, glancing at him as she drove. "Not really," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "It just feels like everything is spinning. We were making plans, talking about a future, keeping the hope alive. And now, this." Amanda nodded, her eyes focused on the road. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Just remember, you're not alone in this anymore. We can face it together. Her encouragement was a balm to his worries, even if it felt fragile. When they arrived at the hospital, the stark white walls and the antiseptic smell instantly struck him. Jonathan took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I'll be right back," he said, stepping into the lobby while Amanda parked. He approached the reception desk, his voice quaking slightly. "I'm here for my mom, Margaret Lewis. They just sent me a message said they need to see her." The nurse looked up from her computer, her expression sympathetic. "Please take a seat. I'll let the doctor know you're here." As Jonathan sat down, time seemed to stretch. The waiting area was filled with muffled voices and the occasional ringing of a phone. He could feel his palms sweat, and he cursed himself for not being stronger. Why did he have to feel so helpless? Minutes ticked by, but each one felt like an eternity. Just when he thought the silence might swallow him whole, Amanda walked in, her demeanor upbeat, a forced smile plastered on her face. "Hey, I brought you some water," she said, handing him a bottle. "I thought you might need it." "Thanks," he murmured, grateful for her presence, even if it felt like a mask against the gnawing worry in his chest. Eventually, a doctor approached, his demeanor calm but serious. Jonathan stood up, anxiety coiling tighter. "Mr. Lewis?" "Yes," he replied, his voice sharper than intended. The doctor took a breath, scanning Jonathan's face for reassurance. "I'm afraid your mother's condition has worsened. We need to discuss the next steps." The words hit him like bricks. All the preparedness he had built up crumbled as dread filled the space between them. Amanda squeezed his hand, an anchor amid the turbulent waves. "What next steps?" Jonathan whispered. The air suddenly felt thick, heavy with dread. As the doctor talked, he focused on Amanda's grip. With a brief squeeze, he felt some of the weight lighten. He wanted to ask questions, to demand clarity, but his heart thudded too loudly in his ears. After a moment of numbness, the doctor's words began to sink in. Maybe this moment held the possibility of change, the kind Amanda spoke about, facing fears head-on for the sake of family, of love. And just then, Jonathan's phone buzzed again. It was a new message, but he couldn't bring himself to look at it. What could possibly matter now? As they walked toward his mother's room, uncertainty clung tightly, but a flicker of resolve ignited within him, filling him with the daring thought that maybe they would find a way to navigate this together. How would he face this colossal uncertainty? What awaited them on the other side? Jonathan and Amanda moved through the sterile corridor, the brightness of the overhead lights almost blinding. Each step felt heavy, a leaden weight of worry pulling at Jonathan's chest. He caught glimpses of other families gathered around, some with relief etched in their faces, others weeping silently. It was a strange theater of emotion, and he felt out of place, like an intruder among them. "Just breathe," Amanda whispered as they paused outside his mother's room. Jonathan nodded, though he could hardly remember how to take an easy breath. The comfort of her presence was both grounding and a reminder of how much was at stake. That he pushed the door open slowly, the soft creak sounding loud in the tense silence. His heart raced, the sight in front of him wrapped around him like a cold shroud. His mother lay in the bed, pale and fragile, an array of machines beeping rhythmically next to her. A nurse was adjusting the four, her hands deft and professional. Jonathan felt his stomach churn. "Mom?" he murmured, his voice barely breaking the air. She didn't stir at first, and panic sparked within him. What if she didn't respond? But then he saw her eyelids flutter. "Jonathan?" Her voice was weak, but there was that familiar warmth in it that made his heart ache. "I'm here," he choked out, rushing to her side. He took her hand, the skin soft and thin beneath his fingers. It felt so wrong. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. "I'm sorry, honey," she whispered, her eyes searching his. "I didn't want you to see me like this. Stop it. Just get better." "That's all I care about," he replied, fighting back tears. He squeezed her hand tighter, willing strength into her frail body. As they spoke, the chirps of the machines created a haunting rhythm like the heartbeat of his fears. Minutes slipped away, each one a blend of fear and flickers of love. Then the door opened again, and Amanda stepped in, her face painted with concern. She didn't intrude on their moment. Instead, she offered a quiet strength by standing behind him, unspoken support radiating from her. "Margaret," Amanda said softly, stepping forward. "I'm Amanda, Jonathan's friend. I'm so glad to meet you." Jonathan watched as his mother's gaze shifted to Amanda, a faint smile breaking through her worries. "Thank you for being here for him," she whispered. "I'll always be here," Amanda replied, her voice steady, filled with sincerity. "We'll get through this together." Jonathan felt a rush of gratitude for Amanda, for her unwavering resolve. But just when he thought he could breathe again, his phone buzzed in his pocket, a low vibration that felt out of sync with the hospital's alarming atmosphere. Reluctantly, he pulled it out, eyes darting to the screen as confusion washed over him. It was a message from his estranged father, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. The text was short but cryptic. "We need to talk about your mother. It's urgent." "Jonathan? What's wrong?" Amanda's voice broke his train of thought. He realized he had been staring blankly at the screen. He hesitated, torn between the turbulent emotions swirling around him. Did he even want to open that door again? His father's shadow loomed large, an unresolved chapter he had been trying to forget. It's nothing," he lied, pocketing the phone. But deep down, he knew that it was anything but nothing. As they settled back into the reality of his mother's hospital room, he suddenly felt the weight of both hope and dread pressing down on him. What did his father want? How did he fit into all of this? Jonathan looked back at his mother, his heart a storm of conflicting emotions. Could they make it through together? Or was this the beginning of yet another turbulent chapter in their lives? He glanced at Amanda, who was smiling gently at his mom, the warmth of her spirit illuminating the air. In that moment, with uncertainty draping over him, Jonathan felt a renewed urgency to face whatever was looming on the horizon. What other surprises awaited him? And would he have the courage to confront them? Jonathan's hand trembled as he pocketed his phone. The message from his father nagged at him, a relentless itch in the back of his mind that he couldn't scratch away. As he glanced toward Amanda, he caught her watching him closely, concern knitting her brows together. He could feel the well of anxiety bubbling inside him, threatening to overflow. "Are you sure you're okay?" Amanda asked, her voice low. As if sensing a storm brewing within him, she took a step closer, the warmth of her presence a lighthouse in his turbulent sea of emotions. "Yeah, just thinking." He didn't want to burden her with his family issues. Not now, not when his mother needed him. But the call from his father hovered like a dark cloud, blocking out the glimmers of hope that had started to break through. "Your mom will be fine," Amanda reassured him, squeezing his shoulder gently. "You're here for her. That's what counts." Jonathan managed a small smile, grateful for her unwavering support. He returned his attention to his mother, who now blinked up at him with that same vulnerable, yet spirited expression. It was the look of a warrior, even in her frail state. He couldn't let fear steal that away from her. "I'm here, Mom," he repeated. "I won't leave you." Her gaze softened. "I know. It means everything to me." The machines beeped around them, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. In this bubble of worry and care, he felt a connection, a bond of unbreakable love. Yet his father's message persisted, nagging at him like an unanswered question. Would opening that door bring chaos back into his life, or was it a step toward healing? Just then, a nurse stepped in, clipboard in hand. "Hello, folks. How's everyone doing today?" "Still here, still fighting," Jonathan replied, attempting a light tone. He needed to keep it together for his mother. "Good to hear. Just checking on your mom's vitals, the nurse said, adjusting the 4-drip. She's stable, but we'll monitor her closely. Jonathan's heart fluttered slightly, relieved to know she was okay for now. Looking at her pale face, he noticed a sheen of sweat forming at her temples. Are you feeling all right? He asked, genuine concern surfacing. I'm a little tired, love, she replied softly. But seeing both of you eases my mind. Amanda smiled gently, but Jonathan felt an undercurrent of tension in the air, the tone of vulnerability, the flickers of uncertainty, they were all too present. After the nurse left, Jonathan pondered how to broach the subject of his father's text. His hands clenched at his sides as he searched for the right words. Mom, he said hesitantly, I got a message from Dad. At the mention of his father, his mother's demeanor changed instantly. The warmth seemed to drain from her eyes, replaced by a shadow of something deeper: fear? Regret? What did he say? Her voice was steady. Just that we need to talk about you. It's urgent. The words fell from his mouth like lead, heavy and unwelcome. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if bracing herself against an unseen wave. Oh, Jonathan. Do you want me to reach out to him? He asked, hoping to approach this delicate topic with care. No. The firmness in her voice surprised him. Not now. It's not the time. Jonathan's heart sank. The past loomed over them, haunting the room like a specter. But somehow, he realized, this was not just about the unfinished business with his father, it was also about reconciling the love and memories that bound their family despite the fractures. With a sigh, he turned to Amanda. I don't know if I can do this. I thought I could handle everything after all these years, but you don't have to handle it all alone, she said softly, her eyes steady and inviting. Whatever happens next, you won't face it alone. Her comforting presence made the weight feel lighter, but the storm in Jonathan's chest raged on. That evident urge to connect with his father battled with the protective wall he had built up over the years. Could he really bulldoze through those barricades? As the silence enveloped them again, Jonathan's thoughts raced. He couldn't ignore the path ahead one way or another. He'd need to face his father. Was he ready for that confrontation? Or would it break what little peace they had left, and what would it mean for their fractured family? Jonathan glanced toward the window, the sunset casting an orange glow that made it feel like everything was ending, yet, somehow, also beginning. What choices loomed ahead, and how would they change everything he thought he knew? Jonathan leaned back against the cold hospital wall, feeling the rough texture press against him, grounding him in a moment that felt surreal. The warmth of Amanda's presence lingered by his side, her reassurance wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Yet, that small comfort didn't quell the aching uncertainty gnawing at him. Do you ever just feel stuck? He asked suddenly, the words spilling out before they could be held back. Like you're standing at a crossroads and every option feels wrong? Amanda's eyes flickered with understanding. It happens to everyone. Especially when the stakes are high. She paused, searching for the right words. But sometimes waiting can be more damaging than moving forward, even if it's scary. He nodded, pushing thoughts of his father aside for a moment. It's exhausting. I'm trying to be strong for Mom, but there's this weight. It feels like it just keeps piling on. Her hand found his again, fingers lacing together as if she could transfer some of her strength into him. Then let it out. Talk about it. What weighs you down the most? Taking a deep breath, he hesitated, contemplating how much of the past was intertwined with the present. It's Dad, he muttered, hating that even saying the name brought a sour taste to his mouth. I thought after everything that happened, I'd be free of that chaos. But that message has opened doors I thought were closed for good. Are you worried about what he'll say? Amanda asked, tilting her head to look directly into his eyes. Or is it more than that? It's both, he admitted, voice low. It's like every time I think I've moved on, something drags me back to him, back to the anger, the hurt. A nurse peeked into the room, checking up on his mother again. The rhythmic beeping of machines surrounded them, a constant reminder of everything at stake. As she went about her work, Jonathan felt a wave of protectiveness for his mom wash over him, a fierce urge to shield her from anything that could derail her stability. When the nurse left, he turned back to Amanda. If I talk to him, I feel like I might regret it. But if I don't, what if I turn my back on a chance to finally find closure? His heart raced as the words hung in the air, heavy with implication. There was an undeniable truth to what Amanda had said: staying stagnant could be just as harmful. But diving into those turbulent waters felt like a leap off a cliff without knowing how deep the pool was beneath. Maybe you need to have that conversation to see where it leads, Amanda suggested, her voice steady. But just remember this: if it feels too much, you have the right to walk away. Jonathan took a moment, absorbing her words and the strength behind them. He wanted that strength for himself, wanted to feel unshackled from the chains of his past. And if it goes wrong? Amanda leaned in slightly, her eyes soft yet confident. Then we'll deal with it together. You're not alone in this, remember? With a flicker of hope igniting inside him, Jonathan allowed himself to picture it: the possibility of a fresh start, a new chapter. It was terrifying yet exhilarating. What if he could end the cycle of hurt? What if their family could come together again, piece by fragile piece? He squeezed her hand tighter, feeling the swell of determination rise within him. Okay, I'll reach out to him. But I want you with me when I do. Absolutely, she said, a smile blooming on her face. We'll tackle it head on, just like you've done for your mom. Whatever lay ahead, he could feel the flutter of anticipation mixed with fear. The thought of confronting his father awakened a storm within, but with Amanda's support, he felt equipped to face whatever came next. As he settled deeper into the moment, the sunset outside transformed into a palette of colors: gold, purple, orange, infusing the room with warmth and hope. In that fleeting instance, he sensed a shift. Did they have the power to change their narrative? Could they rewrite the past and create a future woven together instead of split apart? But just as those ambitious thoughts took flight, another notification pinged on his phone. He dared not look, dread creeping into his heart. What if it was a reply from his father? His mind raced. Was he truly ready for whatever was about to unravel? With the darkness ahead looming large, the question felt bigger than ever: could he handle the truth, once and for all? Jonathan's heart thumped loudly in his chest as he gazed at the notification on his phone. The screen illuminated the dim room, a bright contrast against the uncertainty that loomed within him. Fear, like a familiar cloak, wrapped around his shoulders as he contemplated what it might say. He felt Amanda's presence next to him, solid and calming, yet the weight of the unknown was too heavy to ignore. "Are you going to check it?" she asked gently, sensing his hesitation that he wanted to. Yet, part of him was terrified of the possibility that his father had responded. He imagined the scathing words that could cascade from the father who had hurt him so deeply. What if it's bad? He muttered, staring at the screen, unable to take a breath. Amanda squeezed his hand reassuringly. "Then you deal with it. You're stronger than you think, Jonathan." Taking a deep breath, Jonathan finally broke away from the tempest of his thoughts. The notification still hovered before him, a siren calling him forward. With a shaking finger, he tapped the screen. "Let us see what he has to say," she urged, her voice a steady anchor in turbulent waters. That he clicked on the message, the letters dancing before him as he scanned the words. "I need to talk," it read, simple yet loaded with implications. His stomach dropped as anxiety flooded his system. What could he possibly want now? Did he say what it's about? Amanda's brow furrowed slightly, concern etched on her features as she peered over his shoulder. "No, just that he needs to talk," Jonathan replied, his tone tinged with disbelief. "It's like he knows I'm about to reach out, and he's trying to pull me back." Jonathan rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the tension clinging there. It was easier to maintain his anger, easier to have that wall between them. But now, the very thing that had once felt so empowering, the anger, was also leaving him exhausted. All the more reason to just face it, right? Amanda pointed out. He's reaching out, and that means something. Maybe he wants to apologize. Maybe it's his way of mending things. Could that really be true? Jonathan felt a flicker of hope spark deep within him. But what if it was just more of the same? The chaos? The disappointment? What if it opens wounds I can't heal? He whispered, feeling vulnerable. What if it's just more pain? I guess the answer will lie in talking to him, she replied softly. No pressure, though. You don't have to do this alone. He nodded, absorbing her words. A small part of him wanted to deny her any more than that, but the larger part of him wanted to believe in the possibility of change, just as the sunset was painting the world in vibrant colors. Okay. He took a deep breath as he opened up his contacts list, staring at the familiar name. With Amanda by his side, a wild mix of determination and fear coursed through him. Perhaps today would be the day he learned how to rewrite his story. He pressed call, the ringing echoing loudly in his ears, a sharp contrast to the pulsing quiet that had enveloped him moments before. With every ring, doubt crept in, threatening to pull him under. What if the man who answered was still the father he had tried so hard to escape? What if this newly braved moment only led him further down that well of hurt? As the call continued to ring, Jonathan squeezed Amanda's hand, the warmth of her touch fueling him just enough to push onward, no matter what awaited at the other end of the line. But then the call clicked through, and a gravelly voice he hadn't heard in years broke the silence. Jonathan? It's me. In that instant, Jonathan felt his entire world tilt on its axis. Would this conversation lead to the closure he craved, or would it shatter everything he had built up within? Dad, he breathed, struggling to find his voice as the uncertainty consumed him. As he listened to the words that followed, the real question hung heavy in the air: could he truly face the past and come out alive on the other side? The silence stretched like a taut rubber band, vibrating with the weight of everything left unsaid. Jonathan's mind raced as he tried to grasp the enormity of what was happening. He hadn't heard his father's voice in years, and yet it felt both foreign and achingly familiar. Jonathan, I've been thinking about you, the gravelly voice continued. Each word dripped with hesitation, almost as if his father was testing the waters. I know it's been a long time, and I'm not really sure where to start. Jonathan's heart sank. His father had always been a master of avoidance. The last thing he wanted was another stilted conversation. But there was an urgency, a desperate plea layered beneath the surface. What's different now? He managed to ask, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. I want to make things right, his father replied, his tone thick with emotion, surprising Jonathan more than he expected. I've realized too late sometimes that I made mistakes. I didn't just lose you, Jonathan. I lost myself. Jonathan clenched his jaw, emotions roiling within him. Could he believe this? Could he really give this man another chance? A part of him wanted to scream, to unleash a decade's worth of hurt that still felt fresh, but a smaller part clung to the flicker of hope Amanda had encouraged. Why now? He pressed, hoping to unearth sincerity buried beneath old wounds. Because I've changed, or at least I'm trying to, his father said slowly. I want to explain, to go deeper than the surface. I need you to know how sorry I am. For the first time in years, Jonathan felt his defenses waver. Memories of childhood flickered before him, afternoons spent building tree houses, laughter that echoed in places now hollowed by pain. Could he find a way to untangle the love from the hurt? What do you want from me? Jonathan's voice was steadier than he felt. I just want to talk, son. That's all. I want to hear about your life, and I want you to hear about mine. I understand if you need time, but I hope you'll give me a chance. The request seemed too simple, almost naive. Yet, part of Jonathan craved this dialogue. The air hummed with an electric tension as he glanced at Amanda, who gave him an encouraging nod, her eyes bright with anticipation. "Okay," Jonathan said, the word trembling on his lips. "I can do that." At first, the ensuing conversation felt like wading through a thick fog. They navigated awkwardly around the sorrows of their past, each sharing in fragmented pieces. Jonathan felt a cautious openness bloom within him, but with it came the fear that it might be all an illusion, the same old pattern. As they exchanged stories, his father's voice softened with vulnerability. "I never understood the weight I placed on you, how it spiraled into resentment. I thought I was doing the right thing. I just lost my way." Jonathan swallowed hard, weighing each word like a pebble in a stream. "You don't get to rewrite history just like that. I've spent years trying to break free from it. It shaped me." I know," his father said urgently. "But I'm here now. I want to understand who you are, not just as my son, but as a person." Long-held grief twisted in Jonathan's chest, an ache he was learning to confront. "What if I don't like what I hear? What if you still don't meet my expectations?" The line went quiet for a moment, and Jonathan's breath hung suspended in the air. "Then I'll accept it. Just as I accepted my mistakes. I can't change the past, Jonathan, but I want to be part of your future, however you see that." Jonathan shut his eyes, envisioning the road ahead filled with possibility and peril. A familiar warmth filled his chest, pushing back against the chilly fear that had clutched him for so long. It was the first step toward a bridge he never thought they could build, but just as hope began to take root, the call dropped. Silence rang in his ears, leaving a pulsing echo that whispered, "What now?" With uncertainty swirling again, he looked at Amanda, their eyes locking in shared understanding. The road ahead was still unclear, and though a conversation had ignited possibilities, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. "Jonathan?" Amanda asked softly, sensing the turmoil still swirling in him. "What do you think will happen next?" That question hung in the air like the faint promise of dawn, the answer still obscured by shadows. Would he take those next steps, or retreat once more? The uncertainty loomed larger than ever, but as he glanced down at his phone's blank screen, a sense of resolve began to bubble up inside him. Jonathan took a deep breath, inhaling the surrounding air infused with the sterile scent of the hospital. It cleared his mind, granting him a fleeting moment of clarity as he attempted to wrap his head around the conversation he had just had with his father. The silence of the room and the soft beeping from the machines became a backdrop to the chaos swirling in his heart. He felt Amanda's gaze on him, steady and reassuring. She had been his anchor, his light in the storm that had brewed for so long. "How do you feel?" she asked, her voice like a balm on his frayed emotions. I think this is just the start," he replied, voice stronger than he felt. The rawness of their conversation echoed in his mind, each word weighing heavy yet laden with hope. "But I also know it's going to be a long road. Forgiveness feels like a ticking clock, like I'll have to face that shadow of hurt over and over again." She nodded, understanding etched in the lines of her face. "You're acknowledging it, Jonathan. That's a huge step. It's never easy, and it won't happen overnight, but it's progress." "Yeah," he murmured, the sincerity of those words resonating deep within him. This wasn't just about his father anymore. It was about reclaiming the pieces of his life that had been lost, finding strength in vulnerability, and ultimately, accepting the love of those who chose to stay by his side through it all. His gaze drifted back to his mother, who lay in her hospital bed, the lines of worry furrowing her brow. He walked to her side, taking her fragile hand in his own. "Mom," he whispered, smoothing the back of her palm with his thumb, feeling a spark of courage flow from her. "I spoke with Dad." Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock and concern crossing her face. "What did he say?" "He wants to talk. He wants to understand me, and he realizes he made mistakes, that he lost his way," Jonathan said, swallowing hard. "I think he wants to make things right." Margaret studied her son for a long moment. "And how do you feel about that?" Emotionally twisted, he admitted with a weak laugh. But I want to try, maybe even forgive. For us. She smiled softly, yet there were so many emotions swirling behind her eyes. Jonathan, just remember, he may be your father, but you are not defined by him. You are defined by your choices. Those words echoed through him, battle cries against the entrenched hurt. He held her hand tighter, feeling the warmth seep into him, a reminder of the love that endured through stormy seas. As they spoke quietly, Amanda stood nearby, a comforting presence radiating calmness. Jonathan glanced back at her, and their eyes met. The corner of her mouth turned up slightly, and for the first time in a while, he felt a sense of hope, not just for himself but for his family. The moment hung suspended in time, shifting in its weight as reassurance filled the air. "We'll work through this together," Jonathan promised, both to his mother and Amanda. And then, something unexpected happened. The door to the hospital room swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in. Jonathan's heart raced, not in fear this time, but with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. "Mom?" It was his estranged father, hesitating at the threshold, eyes darting nervously around the room. Their gazes met, and Jonathan felt the gravity of years of silence and hurt between them. "Dad," he breathed, the word feeling no longer strange but heavy with meaning. I wanted to see you." "I'm sorry," his father said, voice trembling, as he laminated both love and regret. Before he could brace himself, and before Jonathan could even piece together the complexities of how to respond, Amanda stepped forward. "Hi," she said, her confident smile sending ripples of warmth through the tension. "I'm Amanda, Jonathan's friend. It's good to meet you." His father blinked, a hint of surprise at the unexpected support emanating from the young woman beside his son. There was strength in her presence, an unspoken understanding bridging the gap that years of disconnection had wrought. With uncertainty still hanging in the air, Jonathan sensed the opportunity to reclaim their narrative beginning to unfold. There would be obstacles, yes, an entirely new journey of rebuilding relationships ahead, but he felt it. This was the moment they'd taken the first step. The moment they could redefine their future. "Let us talk," he said, his voice steady, no longer tinged with bitterness but infused with tempered possibility. "All of us." In that moment, Jonathan felt something shift, not just in the room, but in himself. This was how transformation begins. Not with massive leaps of change, but through simple steps taken together. And for the first time, there was room for healing. As they exchanged hesitant glances, slowly unfolding their truths, the foundation of forgiveness and understanding began to take shape. Together, they would navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Together, they would redefine what it meant to be family. Jonathan looked at Amanda, who met his gaze with unwavering support, ready to help him face whatever came next. That flicker of hope grew brighter, illuminating the floor they stood on, a shared commitment to change, to growth. They were no longer just Jonathan and his father, they were Jonathan, his father, his mother, and Amanda. A new family, ready to face a brighter future. The past lingered, but it no longer held them captive. In that moment of realization, Jonathan heard the distant laughter of children outside, chasing fireflies against the rich backdrop of night, and it filled him with a sense of joy. A new beginning awaited them, and amidst the shadows they had weathered, he felt ready to embrace the light. Now was the time to ignite change, to welcome healing, and most importantly, to build bridges long thought impossible. If you felt inspired by Jonathan's journey today, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a huge difference. I want to hear from you too. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending, what resonated with you the most. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread this message. True fans understand how vital it is to stand together in support. Do it now.